Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, and I am at Barnes and Noble because, everyone's been posting that they've been finding the new Goosebumps book, Say My Name, at Barnes and Noble. Even though it doesn't come out until March 4th, people are saying they're finding it at Barnes and Noble because it's one of those loose release date books. So some books have a very firm release date, and so they have to be put out on the day that it releases, or the bookseller can actually get in trouble if they do release it early. But Goosebumps apparently has a loose release date, so it's okay to put it out early. So we're going to go in, and we're going to try and find it. I really hope it's on the shelf. Last time I did this, I was looking at a Books A Million, and it was like hiding on the shelf. So hopefully I can find book number 4 of Goosebumps, House of Shivers, Say My Name by R.L. Stine. Let's see if we can find it. So this is one of the newer Barnes & Nobles. It's like really swanky looking. It's like a remodeled one, which these are really awesome. So I was looking on the shelf, no Goosebumps, House of Shivers book 4. And I was like, oh no, it's not here. They don't have it. This is so sad. But then I went up to one of the workers because I thought, well, maybe it's in the back. It is possible. So I crossed my fingers and I went and I asked one of the workers, like, hey, do you know if you have the new Goosebumps House of Shivers book in stock? And so he said, well, okay, let me look. So he like typed it up and stuff. And then he said, oh, I think it just came in today and it's in the back. Let me go check. So he went to the back, came back, and he had the one and only copy they had of Say My Name, Goosebumps, House of Shivers book 4. And he said, it's a good thing we got one because they're actually out at the warehouse. So we couldn't have ordered any anymore if we even wanted to because they don't have enough. So that's an interesting statement because that tells me they only got one copy in. I'm curious if this was a lower print run than other print runs of different books. So I'm really glad I got a copy. If you have not gotten one yet, go find one. We need to make sure that this book sells enough in order to keep this series going. Because if it doesn't sell enough, they will put pause on it. So we got to keep reading these. We got to keep buying them. Go get them from your library, all the things. So I'm so excited to read and find out what happens. So I'm going to probably be reading this all night long. This is like my nighttime reading book now because I want to find out what happens in this book. I've not read the back. I do not know anything about it. Here's my guess. My guess is this book is like a Rumpelstiltskin kind of storyline where you have this magical fish I think they're going to catch. And then I think what's going to happen is it's going to like tell them like, I'll do something for you if you say my name. But then when they say that its name, it gets released. This is all my guess. So we'll find out what happens. And obviously if there's like a wish involved, the wish is going to go bad because that always happens. So we'll see what happens in this book. I'm excited to read it and find out. All right. Well, I better drive so I can get home so I can go read this book. All right, so I am back in my library. I have finished reading this book, so let's talk about it. We are talking about Goosebumps House of Shivers, book number 4, Say My Name by R.L. Stine. Now, this book here, I've got to tell you right from the jump, this is not my favorite Goosebumps book, especially not my favorite Goosebumps House of Shivers book. And I think, to me, what's very interesting about this particular entry in the series is I think R.L. Stine had a great idea, but I think the way it came together is just not my personal favorite. Especially after book number 3, Night of the Living Mummy. I loved that book. In fact, in retrospect, I've liked it more and more. And I know some people don't like that one, mainly because of the mummy aspect, the Egypt aspect. It's not always for everybody, that kind of a topic, but I really love mummy stuff. Even outside of Goosebumps, I like to read mummy stories. I like mummy movies, all those sorts of things. So that kind of realm of horror is one of my favorites. So granted, I would like that book probably quite a bit more than this one. And I would have to say too, I actually think I liked Goblin Monday better than this one. In my personal opinion, this is the worst of the House of Shivers books. So let's talk about it, because some of you might be thinking like, oh, I don't know about that. It can't be that bad, can it? Like maybe it's just you don't like it. And I will say, it could be that I don't like it. Now I have to tell you up front, I do not love Goosebumps books that feel like a runaround book, where it's like the characters are just kind of like running around to the same places kind of over and over and over again and doing seemingly the same things. And so I don't super love the style of this story, because this story has that quality. It's kind of similar, in my opinion, to One Day at Horrorland, which if you've watched my review of One Day at Horrorland, you know I did not really love that Goosebumps book either. Now, I will say though, people who liked One Day at Horrorland or Legend of the Lost Legend is another very similar one in my opinion. I think if you like those, you probably will be more apt to like this one, but you also might not, because I will say, this is no spoilers, but I feel the end is very unsatisfying. I also feel like it's very easy to guess the twist. In fact, I guessed the twist after chapter 1. I thought, wait a minute, okay, let me think about this. And then I landed on it. I thought, yep, that's exactly what I think this is. Now, I do think there are some very clever things in this book, and I have to give R.L. Stine props, because there were a couple times when I was reading this book, I literally sat down and thought, oh, what? Like, oh, that's interesting. And oh, what a great idea. Because there were some really great ideas that R.L. Stine had during this book that I thought were super fascinating. Especially some of the formatting and some of the structure was clever. I don't want to say it's genius, but it was clever. Some of it made me laugh. I thought, oh, that's great. I like that a lot. So there definitely were some good things like that. I also think you do have a main character who is very interesting and not super boring, actually. So I thought that I liked the main character quite a bit. I don't actually want to say much about the main character because there are some spoilery things if I talk too much about the main character. The other thing I want to say too is there are a couple of moments where I thought, wait, like, how does that exactly work? Because this book, we're going to talk about this in my full Let's Discuss All the Things video. This book reminded me of a couple of films, and especially a TV episode that I have seen that I thought, oh, this is just like that TV episode. And once I made that connection, I kind of like saw where everything was going. And I thought, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Here's how we're doing this. This is what R.L. Stine's up to. And I actually am super curious if R.L. Stine especially had seen that TV episode. I'm not going to spoil what that is here. I'm not going to even say the name of the show because I think it's too spoilery to say. So I'm not going to talk about it here, but I will say I do think R.L. Stine was very influenced by that show and that episode if he has seen it, which I could see him having watched it, because I think that show and that episode would be something that R.L. Stine's goofiness would really enjoy. I will say too, this is one of the more silly Goosebumps books, which I do not always love those. I kind of like the Goosebumps books that are a little more serious. I usually like the ghost stories the very best so far out of all the Goosebumps books I've read, or monster ones. I really like the monster type stories when they're not being silly. So like One Day at Horrorland, I did not love as much because it was so silly. Legend of the Lost Legend, though, I feel like is a really good comp for this book. If you liked Legend of the Lost Legend from the original series, I think you're going to like this one. But again, you may not. Now, there's another topic that R.L. Stine tackled in this book that I don't want to say because it will spoil things, but you will find out about this topic in chapter 1. So right from the jump, you're going to find out about this topic that R.L. Stine is like dealing with. And I will tell you right now, sometimes R.L. Stine has some interesting things to say about different subjects. I don't think he has anything interesting to say about this subject. Nothing, because he doesn't end up saying anything about it. It's just kind of vague in the background, etc. Now let's talk about, is this book scary? Because that's always something you want to know in a Goosebumps book. Is this one going to be scary? I did not find this book scary at all. It's a little tiny bit disturbing at one point where there's some pieces the characters are trying to figure out, and one of their conclusions is kind of disturbing. And I thought, okay, that's actually pretty disturbing. And if that was like what was happening, that would be really creepy. But I already knew what was happening, so it was not actually that scary. So I did not find this one scary. There are no jump scare kind of things. There's actually, I will say too, there's actually not a lot of fake out scares in this book, which I did appreciate. There weren't any moments of, the chapter ends and there's a scratch at the door and they open the door and it's a cat. There wasn't that kind of stuff. So this book actually didn't have those kinds of scares. It had other sorts of things that are, like I said, are more like disturbing to think about. You're like, oh, that would be a really creepy situation, but not really a scary one and not really something that's going to like haunt your dreams. It's just kind of what it is. So there's some interesting elements to this book, but overall, at the very end, it does not make sense. The last section of the book has some clever moments, but the very end, I did not like it. I actually turned the page after what I thought would be maybe the second to last chapter, only to realize, oh, that was the last chapter, and there's nothing else after this. That's the end of this book. And I was really disappointed. The ending it was not good. It was very disappointing. It has a little final twist that is not interesting. Like, I just thought it's not interesting. It just kind of is, and you could kind of see it coming. So I did not really love that whole element of the book. I will say also that this book, I'm a little nervous about this series. Here's why. Like I said earlier, when I was at the bookstore, they talked about how there was no other copies at the Barnes & Noble warehouses to order. So I've worked in a bookstore in the past, and here's the thing about books. A publisher will start to hedge their bets on later books in a series if they feel like the sales are not really there. Now, I have not looked at the sales for Goosebumps House of Shivers to see like where is it selling in the realm of different books, and like, is it getting on bestseller lists, etc. My suspicion is Goosebumps House of Shivers is not selling as well as they would have hoped. I am nervous that the series is going to end after book number 5 if people are not purchasing these books, because if people do not purchase the books, the publisher will not keep going. Just for fans' sake, of those of us who enjoy these, they want to publish stuff that people want to read. And I think something very interesting to note about where the Goosebumps fan space is, I think there's about to be, in my opinion, a fracture. And what I mean by a fracture is this. You have going on right now a lot of people like myself who are nostalgic for Goosebumps, who really like the old school stories, who maybe grew up on the TV show, have watched it, and there's that element of camp that's in a lot of the old Goosebumps stories. Now, on the flip side, you have newer viewers of the streaming show on Disney+. The streaming show does not play the same way as older Goosebumps stories did. The streaming show is much more trying to be a kind of a little slasher, a little more of a teen horror kind of show than the camp level that was in the older Goosebumps show. And that's not to say the older Goosebumps show did not have scary moments, because it definitely did. Like for the 90s, I remember some episodes as a kid being very scary. And I think some of the original 62 books have some scary moments and are actually kind of frightening. So there are some moments like that there. But I think on the whole, there's going to be a fracture. And I think you see this, especially in the online community, about Goosebumps, the show and the books. I think there's a divide. So there are some people who like both for sure. But I do generally see most people not enjoying the show because they like the books. And the people that enjoyed the show did not grow up on Goosebumps books. So, and of course, like I said, those are generalizations. There are lots of exceptions, but it's kind of what I see generally, and not just from the algorithm. I go searching to see, like, what are people saying about these things? Because I want to know, like, I'm always curious. So I'm nervous about the fracturing of the fan base. I'm nervous about the future of Goosebumps House of Shivers. And let's be honest, R.L. Stine is getting older. So I'm a little worried about how much more Goosebumps we're going to have from R.L. Stine, because sometimes he puts out such good books. Like, I still really love Night of the Living Mummy. I think that was an excellent Goosebumps book. I loved it. I thought it took the mummy elements that have been in previous books, but took it to a totally different level. It made really good use of the part structure that you have in these House of Shivers books. So I really enjoyed that one. I actually enjoyed Scariest Book Ever as well. Goblin Monday I did not enjoy, but I did not enjoy this one pretty much at all. So it's a little bit of a rough go, I think, for Goosebumps fans right now. And if we do want these series to continue, we've got to go buy the books. We've got to get them from the library. We've got to go buy the ebooks, download the audiobooks, etc. We've got to support the franchise, so that way the publisher says, okay, there's still money here. Let's keep making these. So at the end of the day, how many stars do I give Say My Name, Say My Name? I would have to give this book a 2 out of 5 stars. And I hate to say it, because I really do love Goosebumps. I think they're so much fun to read. I think it's a great franchise. There's a lot of fun stuff there. But I feel like this one was a big miss in my opinion. If you want to know more details about why I think this, follow for my Let's Discuss video that will be coming out. That will be a spoiler-filled video. I'm not going to release it for a couple of days because I want people to be able to read it without the spoilers first. So I always try and like wait on those Let's Discuss until the book is out for everyone to get, so that way they can read it for themselves. But I do say this one has to be a 2 out of 5 stars. It just was not that good, unfortunately. And I hate to say it, but I really hope the next book in the series, The Last Sleepover, is a good one. It seems like it could be. I have not read the back. I only have seen the cover art. And from the jump, I didn't really like the cover art of this book. I looked at the cover art and I thought, oh, I don't really love that cover art. I wonder what's going on in the story. What's the title about? It's a little confusing. And I just gotta say, I did not end up enjoying the book. So 2 out of 5, that's where I'm going to land on this one. So until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.